Recently, it was announced from Technical Buffalo that later iPhones may be more powerful than current home consoles. This was after the same day announcement from Destructoid on how Lightning Returns Final Fantasy XIII was announced for the iPhone in Japan. Now, not being an electronics expert, I don't know the true capabilities or can perceive the future. However, I do feel a bit foolish after having the discussion with Bandit Haze and maybe Nintendo and company and all the other current gen consoles were right to release a new console foreseeing this event releasing as soon as possible, possibly this year. The Nintendo video game business masterminds predicted this? Possible. Strong IQ of Japanese Nintendo execs and a lot of people just noting the capabilities of the iPhone in business meetings, research, and access to studies probably foresaw this. Not Zombie showed me this chart. Growing up with the Nintendo, we may see the biggest transition since the Atari went bankrupt. The Nintendo era may be over, which is basically my entire lifetime, even longer. So what's the next step for Nintendo, Sony, and Microsoft? Not to mention, even Apple may lose business if they go in the wrong direction the first couple of years or even generations, with poor marketing, press relations, and business decisions for their fan base. Going into a business console market may even hurt them, although the indie games have done well on the iOS so far. There are certain markets and economic, consumer, and technological boundaries they will have to go through in their SWOT analysis to defeat the current gen, and maybe not just hurt their own brand, prior to the point of selling off a bad blemished brand of the Apple empire, such as that of certain failures of the company. Overall, I see a lot of big changes. The iPhone sells for a lot of money, console-ish money, and that pretty much funds Apple to do whatever they want, leading to the dominance of not only Apple computers and iPhones, but video games and maybe even other markets possibly. Although this wasn't much of a problem with Nintendo in the first place, power has become something even that has finally become something that the consoles can't beat. They will have to compete with Apple now to beat them in the video game market creatively, even in terms of business. Business, branding, and business deals will become even more prevalent. Nintendo had one of the biggest gaming revolutions with the Wii and will need some sort of innovative or user friendly console to keep it unique. Power has never been a main feature for the Nintendo consoles, but rather an efficient use of technological resource, as most expensive consoles outside of the Neo Geo and arcade cabinets tend not to necessarily fail, but just aren't as successful as the number one selling console. Branding will be big for video game companies, especially Nintendo. Although software sales haven't been big, maybe they can make money other ways. Nintendo store events, merchandising, theme parks, merchandising, media tie-ins. Did I mention merchandising? In terms of innovation and branding, new IPs will be big for Nintendo. Splatoon was big because its innovative format of innovative engine and take on the first person shooter. It won multiple awards from developers and synergized the mother Nintendo brand. Marketing 101 says always be quality, always be innovative, and always be relevant, and this will be key to attempting to beat competitors such as Apple. There's a certain legacy behind Nintendo, and I think that will definitely pay relevance to video games. I imagine Shigeru Miyamoto may even win a video game award from Apple for his contributions to the history of video games if Apple does become successful and even if the Nintendo becomes extinct. Maybe Apple will buy Shigeru Miyamoto. They're pretty expensive. They're pretty big. Even though I do believe Shigeru Miyamoto has always enjoyed the Nintendo environment and has had a lot of history there. He hasn't left and done any indie games, for example. Also, there's also rumors about him being CEO or whatever, but let's go on to other business. Figure out have to finally do deals, Nintendo. Sony and Microsoft too. Apple will destroy in terms of indie games. Maybe even Steam will have to worry. Another step that Nintendo and other current gen video game companies, console companies will have to consider: chop off the snake's head. Don't make it easy for Apple to go in. If they make a bad entry into the video game market, maybe they can be deterred. The current gen failures of Apple that go to mind are the Apple Watch and the Apple TV, which I'll get into later. Apple has been downtrending in stock recently, no longer hitting that big peak earlier. Although this may be a revolution for the Apple brand, a video game revolution. Maybe Apple will be too hurt to go into the market. Maybe Nintendo and other console companies should team up to stop Apple from dominating carefully. This would be the perfect time to incorporate some console cross branding that would seem like otherwise a dream for fans that would never happen. PlayStation All-Star Smash. Smash featuring Little Big Planet. Sackboy. Killer Instinct. Back on the Nintendo. Donkey Kong 65. Super Mario RPG 2. Cameo on a Nintendo console. Perfect Dark and GoldenEye for the Nintendo again. Maybe a company such as Nintendo will have to deal with Apple, maybe even sacrifice. The Wii U went up, but hasn't dominated like the SNES, NES, or Wii. They may have to partner. Have Apple product compatibility. Set up a partnership in America. Other options. It's a little scary, but I'll get to it later. It might have... Even Satoru Iwata said he did whatever he could to keep Nintendo running as a business, and maybe sacrifice will have to be made. iPhones and iPads working on your Wii NX, or whatever you want to call it, could be a big feature in the later future. Maybe cross teams to provide a product that completely destroys the competition from Sony and Microsoft. Maybe you can stream iPhone games from an NX console to help solve Apple's storage problem in earlier stages. Maybe the Apple TV can do Amiibos or Skylanders and other stuff. 3DSs and iPhones and iPads can do certain things with the gyroscope technology. Maybe more App Store features for a Nintendo console. Maybe Apple will help design the next Nintendo console. Maybe Apple will sell cheap Nintendo games on iOS or iPhone. Then again, maybe the Apple TV may be the next big console for Apple after the lack of interest in the Apple Pippin, and that will destroy the competition. Maybe the Apple TV will play SD for backwards compatible consoles. Maybe Nintendo will even get sold to Apple just so Nintendo can survive. Maybe Nintendo can tie in with another big company. They've been fairly independent their whole lives, but maybe their family cross-branding can cross with Disney, another big company that is sort of tied into Apple because of Steve Jobs, but, it's interesting. Like, backing from another big company compared to their company that's failing could help rejuvenize the brand. My next Mario idea, after all, is a superhero game based on the current trends as Mario did in the 80s with Indiana Jones, RPGs in 3D in the 90s, and God of War in the 2000s. Although Apple's App Store has been big, I feel that generally fans have underestimated the scary time that such a big change can happen in this generation, especially after the news of Splatoon, Super Mario RPG Maker, and even Japanese Wii U sales have happened. Technology is becoming more complex to program for, develop in groups to finish projects with. So much planning is involved now, and trends and equipment change so quickly. It's becoming very complex now. Maybe only software change. Maybe they will have update software that will extend console life cycles to solve problems. However, in my opinion, there's a little bit of excitement. I think we're finally back to the Sega and Nintendo console war era, albeit it seems like Apple may be completely destroying the competition. Competition can be really good for fans, and we're living history now, people. This is a good, interesting time where we can reflect on what was good and what was bad and learn from this.